the betrayal happens when, or if you express some frustration in something and I break that confidence to go to other people, or I break the confidence and say, you tell me two things that you're really struggling with because you do it out of vulnerability to get better. And then I leverage that on a performance review to downgrade you in a comp structure or some other model. I think when you've created a environment of trust, you're creating a team that is going to be highly productive. And I think the biggest betrayal you can do is to create that environment and then take that trust and then put it somewhere else.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Business of Learning podcast. My guest here today is Casey Adams, who is the VP of Global Business Solutions at Degreed. Casey, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, appreciate it. I'm glad to be here. I'm looking forward to the conversation today.
Same, as always. And tell me a little bit more about Degreed, about your role, and give everyone a little bit more context in who you guys help and what you're all about.
Yeah, it's a good question. So I lead a team at Degreed. We call it Global Business Solutions. It's sort of our solutions consulting, sales engineering, enablement teams, and have led quite a few different teams, implementation groups, coming from a history of learning and development, leading learning teams at a couple of different public companies. And the fun thing for me is we get to put that all together at Degreed, which is really one of the innovative companies in the learning tech space over the last decade. It's been pretty cool. So Degreed is, I think we'll use this multiple ways. I think today we might start to classify ourselves as sort of an AI learning orchestration layer, right? For the way that people learn and build skills and capabilities. But it's got a pretty interesting origin story too. And I think it's fun to see sort of where we've come and where we've been in a very short period of time, and sort of how the learning landscape has changed as a result of us and a result of other people sort of coming in as well.
Sure, yeah, I would love to share if you're open with sharing the origin story of it as well. That would be awesome.
Sure. How do we condense 12 years of work in a bit?
It's like somebody says, like, what do you like? And you're like, there's so many things. So
many things. When you look back, I think individuals, right? You think about the catalyst of your careers and what gets us started. Most people point back to the education you got in college, and strangely enough, that's all predicated a lot of part by where you happen to live, how much money your parents had when you grew up. Did you have the right influence? Or in my case, did somebody recruit me to play sports, right? And that dictated where I went to school. Maybe it was even my ACT score, and that can direct the rest of your life and career. And fundamentally, that's broken, right? That shouldn't have the weight that it has. It's important, but it shouldn't carry the weight that it does. Our CEO often jokes about, like, if you were to ask somebody about their health and you told them about a marathon you ran 15 years ago to tell them you were healthy, it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's the same way as asking me about my 2 accounting degrees I got in 2003. It doesn't make any difference today in what I'm doing. And so what we set out to do was really look at, how do we take all the learning, all the skills you build, and every experience, every moment, every practical example you've had, and make that meaningful. Make it meaningful to you as an individual so that you can build a skill portfolio of the things I know how to do, what I'm capable of, with some sort of a leveled rating, and enable businesses to be able to hire and develop and build internal talent and external talent on those skills, because that's ultimately what we're trying to do, right? And you think about building a workforce, building individuals, it matters what can I do, what skills do I have? And that's all a data problem, right? So how do we build quality data at scale with meaningful ways to then build and help progress people in their careers? So we've built a solution that's sort of been in that space. And along the way, we've had some turns. I think one thing we might talk a little bit about would be, at some point, we created what was coined the space called the Learning Experience Platform.
Okay.
And interesting, there's a whole category now because Degreed created it. And I think also the sidebar we can go down to if we want at some point is we never wanted to be that. And in fact, I think falling into the market directing us to do that probably challenged our North Star a little bit of who we wanted to be and what we wanted to do. And so, and a really interesting thing where the market sort of said, go this way, this is who you are, we're defining you. And the reality is that we probably could have held on to who we wanted to be a little better. And I think we've gotten back to that point today. But really interesting journey to sort of start from nothing, disrupt a space, and go from there. So it's been a lot of fun for I've been here for about 8 years and seen just an awful lot of change in the market.
And do you think that that tangential I don't even know if that's the right word, the tangent that you guys took on going to the market's decision in that direction, and now following that back. Do you like if you're looking back at that? Are you like, oh, I'm happy we did that. I'm happy we went that way. I'm happy we learned the lessons. I'm happy we went through those challenges because now what we are focusing on are the path that we are trajectory through is now we are much better prepared because of all the things that we did there. Would you look at it that way, or is it like, I wish we just did this anyways from the beginning?
It's a good question. I think I think anytime you're in business, one of the things that is beneficial is if you can make money at it. And so there's a benefit to following what the market is saying and sharing and helping define that. I think
Yeah.
as an innovator, it's really it's a lot of fun to innovate. It's easy to sort of get easier to get sort of that early
Mm-hmm.
interest from some forward-looking, businesses or consumers or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
To start gathering mass market adoption, it's easier if you don't have to continually educate the market on who
Yeah.
you are and what you're doing and why the world needs to change. You're fighting a lot of battles on a lot of different battlefronts. And I think the market definition gave us the ability to grow, help the market understand what we were doing and why. And so I think there's a lot of benefits in that.
Mm-hmm.
The risk is it allows you to get a little bit complacent. I think so.
Mm.
I absolutely think it was a great thing that happened to us to become this market defining learning experience platform space.
Mm-hmm.
What is the interesting thing? I think our I would totally commend our leadership team and just the organization in general as a culture for not losing sight of what we still ultimately wanted to accomplish, right?
Mm.
And so finding at some point both the courage and sort of the right moment to get back away from that and start breaking away from the market puts you in this
Mm-hmm.
box. And it's really easy to get complacent and stay in that box. And
Yeah.
to do that in an innovative tech space is a
Mm.
surefire way to become irrelevant. So I
Yeah.
think the challenge is how do you sort of reinvent? We didn't have to reinvent, but sort of reorient
Mm-hmm.
the team and the market on where we're going next. And so it's
Mm-hmm.
given us the credibility to go now press the market into new places. So it's been, I think it was definitely a good move, but it's certainly interesting now as we look back and we go, we try to explain to people, no, it's not the box we fit in. We are
Yeah.
something very different.
It just happens to be that we fit perfectly into that thing. That's funny. You mentioned a couple of things there. Which one is educating the market and having that trust with conversations that you're building, which I want to touch on later. But I wanted to talk about the fact that you said uh, building the team and making sure the team is aligned and all those things. From when you joined the company 8 years ago, how have you seen or how have you worked through the process of managing culture and ingraining culture into the team members that are around you and the leaders obviously above and below all over to make sure that everybody is going into the same direction? So how do you analyze culture? How do you view it? How do you build it? How do you maintain it? How do you nurture it in a way that drives the business to where it wants to go?
Yeah, 20 minutes, right? No,
We can extend. Yeah.
no, I'm just teasing. I think it's a great question. I'm sure I'll butcher this quote, but like there was there's a book Ben Horowitz wrote about called Hard Things, like the hard things about hard things or something like that. I think that's the name of
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
But in that, right, he talks about that culture is not about perks. It's about how you handle and solve problems. And so I think what's been really helpful for us defining early on was we have an operating norm of about 10 sort of values in the way we operate,
Okay.
right? And they're not, and they're valuable in terms of like, the way we think, the way we operate, the way we treat each other, the way we think about, the work relationships versus family and balancing that. And those have been really good guiding principles. But I think those principles have been used to solve hard problems along the way. So what
Mm,
happens when we have a customer who, you know, sort of has demands that would take us away from our product roadmap? How do we challenge that? Or we've gotten some maybe financial news that we
mm,
love or we don't love, right? We've
mm,
had to deal with, maybe a downturn in the market and we have to address, potentially a riff or something like that. When
mm,
you get into the hard things, I think the way that you respond to problems and challenges and treat people with dignity and respect, I think that helps set your culture more than anything.
mm.
And one of the things that we've done really well over this period of time is we're a virtual company, virtual first company. So we do have a couple of office locations that you can sort of be in and out of, but primarily we have always looked at this as we will hire the best people regardless of where they sit.
Mm.
And when you do that and you find the best people for the best job to fit the right team and the right structure, you can make sure that you're continuing to make additions, because every single person that you add or remove from your team has a little impact on the way your culture works.
Mm-hmm.
No, it doesn't matter how, how much control you want to put.
Yeah.
Every individual has a contributing factor to that. And
Mm-hmm.
so when you're hiring the best people wrapped around a core set of values, I think that really helps us out. I think we actually, kind of bragging a little, we just got a nice award of being like one of the top 100 most flexible companies to work for in the US.
Oh, wow.
But I think that comes with us trying to find and build the right working structure where people are valued for the skills, they're valued for the work and contributions. And if you find the right fit to your team, it makes all the difference in the world, as opposed to trying to form fit somebody into a model you have.
I really like that. I like that perspective I really like that perspective. And out of curiosity now, where do you find these amazing people? So send them my way as well. where is that usually people referring others? Are they coming and applying to those jobs? Are you specifically like headhunting? How does that usually happen in finding that top talent for you?
I mean, it's all over the place. I think one of the, early on, I think some of the, you're just growing a team, right? Of people, builders and designers and whatever, that have a purpose. So early on was around mission-driven people that said, hey, I believe in this mission to jailbreak the degree, to make skills matter, to give people the path to own their own careers, right? And so early on, it was about finding mission-oriented folks that really helped drive that. And I think that shifts a little bit as you start to find later on, you start to go, I need to fill very specific jobs and roles and skills, but you don't want to lose that passion. So the nice thing about being a sort of business operator, this will sound bad, we're not poaching by any means, but like there's definitely been some really great people that have joined the team from some of our customers, right? Who have come in and said, hey, I have this really unique customer perspective and I can add some industry knowledge and vertical knowledge. And now I can contribute to the team in a new way. So that's
a lot of value for the company.
Yeah. And then I think as the ed tech space has grown, I mean, there's a lot of, I don't know, I think there's probably over 400 different learning management system providers in the market, right? They're all ubiquitous and they all do the same thing. It's all basically a commodity. And what we've opened up is a world that is not a commodity for content or a commodity for compliance learning. It's a new way to transform the way you learn and think and operate inside a company. And so that's attractive to folks who love the learning space and learning technology, but don't want to be stuck at a commoditized learning management company. So we've been able to pull some folks from there who share vision and values and love the space, but want to do something more innovative.
They just want that. They want that extra step. They want that extra mission. It's funny. What you were saying there. People that were mission driven reminded me of a quote where they were talking about like each phase of the business attracts different people. Sometimes you're attracting the missionaries, and then oftentimes you just need the mercenaries. And it just really depends on where it is. But it sounds like you're like, hey, mission driven first, missionaries, and now it's like, how can we get the mission driven mercenaries to now join the company as well, which is pretty awesome. And I wanted to talk about what you said, educating the market, and how that seems to be a pattern that is reoccurring in so many of the conversations that I have, because it seems like so many businesses and companies have amazing products, amazing services, and the cutting edge technology and the world leading organization and this and that, right? But it all just sounds the same. It's all just the same things being said in different ways and the same products being sold in different ways. So when you say educating the market, I really understand, at least as far as for all the conversations that I've had, it's like there are so many people doing so many similar things that people seem to start losing trust into what they can and can't believe. So that creates that need. So, hey, I need to educate you on my services and what we do and how it's going to be helpful for you. So how have you found that education process and the need to educate to build that trust for prospects as you guys have been growing more and more in developing as leaders in the industry?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think back to probably, like 2016, 2017, I guess we sort of were bringing sort of the core message to life, right? I think, and really when we started to initiate a lot of the big growth that started to happen, right? One of the principles that we've always operated on, like I mentioned earlier, is this idea that people are, the skills are sort of the atomic makeup of who you are and what you're capable of doing. And it's really important that we bring that to life in businesses and for people. But if you look at the corporate ecosystem throughout the globe, that is not the way that businesses think, right? Businesses look at, do you have a college degree? Is it in these categories? Is it from this school? Did you
Yeah.
have this job title or this job title? And therefore we'll talk to you potentially,
All the
right?
prerequisites. Yeah.
All the prerequisites. You do all those things. And I know that there's been a lot of work in the last, 10 years to sort of break down that structured system. It's
Hmm.
never going to go away. It's still valuable. But I think we were trying to help the market see there's a lot more to people, especially when they're 10, 15, 20 years into their career. They've built a vastly different set of skill sets that you need to do. So you need to leverage and lean on and think about internal mobility different and overlapping jobs and give people the option where they know that like this job no longer just goes in this hierarchical lather, right?
Hmm.
I think there's sort of this like idea of like you have these ladder moves and career steps, and you sort of got this like lattice moves. Today, it's not even like sort of similar related jobs. It's I have this suite of skills that might be around, I don't know, could be some basic marketing capabilities and demand based stuff that might make me an incredible product designer, right? That might
Hmm.
make me an incredible, engineering
Hmm.
leader, right? To do
Yeah.
something about the product that we're launching. So it's these skills that you're building over time that make us more useful. And so
Mm.
we had to educate the market that that's important. And as the market then started talking about skills, now if you fast forward
Mm.
to today, everyone in the space just talks about skills. And so the the word skills is almost meaningless anymore, right? When we started this, no one wanted to listen. Today, no one wants to listen because everyone's talking about
Hmm.
we manage skills. So I think what you have to then do is you have to then re-educate the market to say, look, yes, we told you that they're very important. Everybody caught on now. The reality is how you compile those, how you
Hmm.
normalize all this information that's out there, how you
Mm.
make this data of skills useful for your business,
Hmm.
right, is something that is uniquely challenging. And that's something
Hmm.
we've been doing for a long time. So we're at a benefit that we've had a head start in that. But I
Yeah.
think that now that the education is now you okay, now that you believe us, now we have to start thinking about how do you use it to make a business impact.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
before was sort of the mission, now is that's important, but it has to drive business impact or it
Mm.
doesn't matter. Right. So now how am I using it to generate better internal mobility? How do I
Hmm.
think about retention? How do I think about getting products to market faster? Right. So
Yeah.
those are the kinds of things that have to matter today.
Yeah. It sounds like it's like, how does this all translate into the actionable things that we need to drive the impact that we want to achieve, no
Absolutely.
matter where they fall under? Huh.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
so interesting. And thank you for sharing that. I really like that perspective. Thank you, Casey. When it comes to the as you join the business, actually let me preframe with this. Obviously, Degreed is a hugely successful company. There's no questioning that. And as I am not part of Degreed, I don't know what your guys' goals are. I don't know where you want to be. I don't know where you want to get to. But when you're thinking about these things, the goals, the things that you want to achieve, the places you want to get to, the impact that you want to make, maybe we'll leave the impact of this. Maybe just the growth goals they have for the actual organization. How do they differ, or how do they differ from the goals you had when you first joined, or the company had when you first joined? Are they the same? And when you're looking at those goals, what are some of the possible obstacles that can get in the way of achieving the growth goals, or the whatever milestones you guys have for the company?
Yeah. Good question. So I don't think that the North Star of what we've set out to do has changed dramatically.
Mm.
I think how we get there certainly will change. I mean, early on we started out as a consumer app, direct to B2C kind of model that quickly transitioned to a B2B with like the goal that eventually we'll get back to the B2C world and sort of
Yeah.
re-engage there. But it's been mechanisms that have changed, not necessarily the overall objective. I think. Well, let me do this. It's not exactly what you asked, but like as you think about the obstacles and challenges that get in the way, I think one thing that the general goal hasn't changed. I think being thoughtful about how we achieve those and what listening to the market about how do we
Mm-hmm.
engage skills the right way. But in that, we also learned there were other things we needed to build, other
Mm.
problems that customers needed to resolve. And it expanded the breadth of what we offer and how we build and how we service teams. And so I think all of that is lessons learned. Along the way, there's certainly realizing you can't be everything to everyone. We've made a really, for example, a really easy decision would have been to build a learning management system, like our own compliance learning solution. But
Hmm.
from the onset, we were really trying to differentiate from that technology that is commoditized. And like I said, there's literally over 400 different providers of that offering. Why be 401, right? When you can be one who makes all of that make sense and
Hmm.
helps you, so we've been able to find things that, some of those challenges that, are positive. We've defined who we want to be. A challenge in some of that is there's definitely customers who've said, I need you to also have this LMS component. We said, we're not going to do that. It's not the DNA of what we want to build. And
Hmm.
so there's definitely times where you have to make those tough choices and defend against that. So I think some of those obstacles are, people want to write you a check to do other things that will distract you.
Yeah.
And so being able to manage those distractions, and some we've done well, and some we've certainly gone down the wrong path, I think.
Mm.
Um, but I think there's positive distractions too. I think, starting in this space, many years ago, I don't think we saw what AI was going to do and disrupt in learning.
Hmm.
And seeing that on the forefront of what we already, we'd already been leveraging components of AI in our solutions and tools. I think there are positive disruptions in a way that says, hey, here's the North Star, but how do we shrink the time to get there by
Hmm.
being way more intelligent with emerging and new technologies and trends? And so we've spent an awful lot of time really bringing high quality AI solutions into the market in ways that we disrupt. I'll try to be cautious about it. We have some big announcements coming out in the next week at
Sure.
our
Yeah. Don't want to
event.
give
So
anything away.
I don't want to share all those, but some really neat things in the way that we're curating content across the globe. The massive amounts of reduction in time for instructional designers and learning professionals so that they can spend time in more useful and valuable kind of programs than
Hmm.
scouring the internet for the best content. Content creation is going to take a whole new meaning inside of Degreed in ways that we're uniquely positioned to. And so some of those elements were things we didn't necessarily set out to do or be, but they were really great opportunities that really help us achieve the end goal
Hmm.
with like a detour, right? The AI detour will be an exponentially beneficial thing for our customers in the way that they
Hmm.
have customized coaches and experiential learning in
Mm.
line, adaptive learning that's happening, the content that we'll be able to produce. All of that is a really helpful distraction. So I think in that we're all in that space. I think we're doing some really innovative things. Stacks up. We work with a lot of financial institutions or other
Mm.
places who are have some aversion to AI. So now you're back to this model where we're
Mm.
educating the market, doing new things, and now a new obstacle comes in that says, but we can't turn on that AI because here's a bunch of
XYZ.
reasons.
Yeah.
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 So I
Huh.
think it's just a matter of managing those. There's always going to be obstacles. I think for us, it's been a matter of
Hmm.
like which obstacles are you have to say no to, and which obstacles or challenges should you say yes to, and then
Hmm.
that's going to create new ones, and let's plan for
Mm.
those because they're better for us. But I think balancing that decision is um, not an easy task.
It's like you're choosing the road, you're choosing the path. They're all going in the same direction, but like which one is the one that is going to be the right or the smartest choice for us to get to that endpoint. I like that. I like that a lot. How do people actually usually start the working relationship with Degree? Is it usually like just word of mouth, referrals, network, all that stuff, or is it a lot of I guess inbound, any type of digital marketing that you guys are running for the acquisition?
I think it's kind of a lot of things. We generally are working with sort of large enterprise
Yep.
organizations. And so it's, events, marketing, people that have, bounced between stuff. Our outbound teams are, sort of, outbound sales for large SaaS companies. It's kind of the, standard model. We do a lot
Okay.
of really interesting, I
Uh-huh.
think, writing and research. We've done some neat research on how the workforce learns. I think has helped
Mm.
people think about the way that people connect with learning and think about how skills are transforming the way that the businesses should think.
Mm.
We're going to do a new version of that coming out. So there's some neat research we try to do, some interesting thoughtfulness around just learning in general, because learning and organizations is,
Mm.
I don't know, I love it. I've spent so much of my career in the L&D space, but in a lot of places it's still an afterthought, right?
Mm.
I think it has the power and potential to be one of the most influential components of your business if done well, and it can have a negative impact when done poorly.
Yeah.
But it continues to be hard to measure, right?
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
often when budgets are squeezed, learning is dropped. When budgets are consolidated or tech is consolidated, learning takes that hit. And
Hmm.
so I think Yeah, it's an interesting just challenge of like how do we? Sorry, I lost my train of thought a little bit. I'd be
It's all
like
good.
got distracted. As you start to think about those constraints, those are tricky for us to sort of manage around.
And interesting. Yeah, and you actually said something there that was just a good reminder. And I like the quote: "We often need to be reminded more than we need to be taught." And one of the reminders that you said was like, "Hey, just kind of the usual things that most most companies do, whether outbound or whatever else." And when I was asking that question, I was like, "Oh, maybe I could be something completely different," but it's just more of the same and then more and then better. It's just like, hey, do more if it's working, do more. Once you limit the more, then just do it better. And it was a good reminder for me because it's often like you mentioned it previously, so like the shiny object syndrome of like, oh, what's this new thing that's going on? But it's not. It's just like keep sticking to what works and do it at scale, do it better than everyone else.
I think. Oh, I remember I was going to say that when I was talking about the budget constraints a little, right? So thank you for the time to think. You're asking about how do we sell? I think interestingly in the learning space, I know you sort of like to think about the business of learning. I love the name of that as your podcast, right? Is learning for so often has been sort of a not always, but a bit of an afterthought. It's sort of compliance. I have to get a thing done. It might help me with my job role. But the reality is that the way that businesses are transforming today, the speed at which technologies change, the pace at which the markets will change, consumer behaviors change, it's really, really difficult to keep a team of people up to speed to do that. And so learning has now shifted to become way more critical in order for us to actually run our businesses. And so one of the interesting things about selling in today's environment is getting away from just selling into the learning space, because while they're the end users, the folks that benefit from this are business line leaders and executives that go, company is going to do this. We have a 2027 goal of being here. How do we get there? And you start to look down at the breakdowns as you cascade that objective in your organization. You realize, I don't have the talent and capacity here. My team doesn't know how to do these things. This is a space, let's call it AI, that we've never even built teams for. How do we do that? And now all of a sudden what you find are these talent, learning, reskilling, upskilling sort of gaps that if they're not addressed, all the greatest objectives for the business can never be attained. And so now you're seeing this shift where business leaders are starting to finally buy in that learning has an absolutely critical role in the buying space. And so I think that's been a lot of fun, but it's also something that, we, and I think the rest of the learning space obviously is challenged with, but is selling into the business with a different value proposition. It's not just about compliance learning and getting some better content to say, yes, we have some leadership development programs for you if you want to take them. This is about, you have these business goals. These are the gaps. If you don't close those with X, Y, and Z kind of models, then you're not going to make it. So if you want to continue to have a job and you want your company to thrive, these are the things we can enable you to do. And I think that's been a shift in the selling model that's had to happen as a result of, I think, the importance of learning changing in the business landscape.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it sounds like it's implementing the learning into the actual systems that will enable everything else to happen, as opposed to, it's something that we have to get done, so let's get it over with. It's like, hey, here's the actual, one of the most important things to be able to do for your organization if you want to reach those goals. If not, no worries, no stress. You don't have to do it. If you want to fail, that's all good. But if not, then probably important for you to implement. That's awesome. Casey, I have two final questions here for you. I know we talked about timing, but hopefully that's cool with you. One question is it's become I guess a frame in the podcast I've been asking everybody. So everybody is getting this one question from me, and you will be no different. So here it is. Let's say you had this amazing magic wand, and you could just wave this amazing wand, and it can solve just one thing in the business. Oftentimes there are many things that we want to solve, but just one thing that would allow you to hit the growth goals, the client acquisition goals, the whatever goals you have. It would allow you to reach those goals just like that. What's the one thing you'd like to solve in the business?
What's the one thing I'd like to solve in the business? Everybody's gonna realize you didn't give me these questions in advance, so I'll have to talk out loud.
Yeah, this one has been a surprise one for everybody.
So I think as an innovative company, maybe there's two things. I would say as you move fast and break things, which is what you should do, you've always got some tech debt you've got to have to go back and solve. I think managing, sort of the tech debt you're building and the innovation you want to design on top of that become this tug of war of where do we spend resources, right? If I had a magic wand, I would say tech stack's done. because now what you do is you're revamped, right? In this model to say everything's revamped, structured the way we want, security's done, because now everything that's innovative is being built into that. Or alternatively, you have the ability to sort of like flip the new innovations out. I think it's just a speed to market. Like the ideas come faster than the capacity to deliver. Than I think market adoption is available, and I think people are seeing that. I think those that can move fast. I think the AI space especially. I think there's going to be so many elements that are going to be commoditized. Take voice AI for a minute, right? Voice agents. They're incredible. But at some point, like we've almost in the time that they came out to the point, let's call it, 2 years ago, year and a half ago, that we really started using voice agents. The progress has been incredible. Like they're really humanistic conversations. There also is no real advantage for me as an entrepreneur to go start my own voice agent model because I can leverage the APIs into all of these other businesses who've done it. Yeah. So we went from something that didn't exist to something that exists today to the point that it doesn't even make sense to compete. I mean, it might, but like for the sake of an argument, it may not make sense to even compete on trying to create something there, but you leverage these technologies. Well, when you think about like the tech stack building, a lot of these things are trying to play catch up. So I think that would be the area that would be lovely to change is how do I future ready? Like, how do I take something that's, you've built with love and care over the last many years and you realize now, the interoperability components are probably the single most important thing we need to get right. Because of what it does is it makes us more responsive for customer issues, makes you more responsive to innovation, makes you more responsive to new ideas that you put out to market. So that's probably a weird business challenge to solve, but I think
no, that's good. That's awesome. And and you actually made me curious. And usually I say always just one, but you said maybe two. So I got curious about the second one. If you want to try the second one as well,
that's fine. Let's do it.
Let's do it. What is the second one? What is the second thing you'd like to solve?
Oh. You were talking about what is my second thing.
You said there's two things that come to mind, and you just got me curious. So I figured I'd ask.
I think it would be the magic wand would be like, could we find a way to just sort of the people that have these needs, that have the buying decisions, to sort of just, hey, everybody in the world has got this challenge. Give us an hour.
Yeah.
Let us talk for an hour. Listen, see what you like. If you like it, great. If not, that's good. Walk away, go somewhere else. But I think what's interesting is just how do you match that conversation to the right people with the right challenges and the buyers a lot faster. And I know that sounds silly, but we spend so much energy and effort to, myself, like my phone's on mute right now because I'm probably getting calls from people who are doing God's work, which is an SDR and outbound cold calling. I have so much respect for that job. I could not do it. And but it's vital to generating interest, but it's also really time consuming for companies, for us, for organizations, and just getting the message to the right buyers at the right time to realize, hey, there's a really big challenge that you need to solve. And here's a really great way to be able to do that. Would be awesome to be able to just instantly say, hey, I wish you had this information. If you had it, now you can make your own decisions.
Yeah.
And then we'll connect. But just sort of the outbound, just cutting through the noise in the market it's a lot of work. And that'll always be a lot of work. But like you said, everybody starts to sound the same. And so it becomes hard for those cold calls or the email outreaches or your events to land with the right people. And sometimes they land with, we'll call it the learning team, which is a great place to be. Sometimes you want it to land somewhere else, but they're not going to listen because it's learning, right? Or whatever, or HR related. So anyway, I think that would be a fun magic wand. I don't know what it would solve, but at least being able to say, hey, just give us an hour and then you go back to the rest of your year.
Yeah, and then and it's like you said, now they have the informed decision to make their decision. And if it's not the right fit, great. But if it is, now you have the right decision to make the decisions, the right information to make the decision. So that's awesome. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you for quenching my curiosity thirst. And then the last question that I have here for Casey, for you, is not a question from me. It's actually a question from our last guest to you, and they had no idea who you were. So are you ready for the question?
Oh, this sounds great. All right, perfect.
So here is the question that they asked. This is an interesting one. What's the ultimate betrayal that a manager/leader could do to an employee?
Ultimate betrayal that a customer/manager could do to an employee.
Yeah, sorry, maybe I phrased that wrong. That a manager/leader/whatever executive could do to an employee.
Yeah, the ultimate betrayal. That's a good question. I think let me I'm a out loud verbal processor, so
Okay, go ahead.
so I'll do that.
Sure.
What's coming to mind is there's many things that could come to mind. You know, someone leaving or a job role changing or things like that. I think all of those are business related. I think
Mhm.
you have to understand that businesses will need to move people or move jobs, or people
Yeah.
will leave or find new opportunities. And as much as I think it's important, I mean, I think at any business, as a leader, one of the things I try to pride myself in is being someone that people want to work for and work with, that I can serve them and make their jobs easier.
Hmm.
Now, in that case, like if someone were to leave, I don't take it personally. If I were to leave, I wouldn't want them to, right? Those we move in our careers. So I don't
Yeah.
think that the people side is vital to making a job work.
Mm.
I don't think it's a betrayal when people leave or move. I think the betrayal would be in breaking trust in confidence. I think
Hmm.
for me, one of the most valuable elements of just any meaningful relationship is the ability to get vulnerable and the ability to share the things I'm not very good at, things that I need help with, the frustrations that I might have. And when I can create an environment where someone can come to me and you might say, Casey, I like doing this job, but I'm actually not very good at these two things.
Hmm.
And I want to work on them, but I kind of suck at them. I need you to help me along the way. And I can do one of two things. I can take that in confidence and we work together on a plan to make that better. And I give you the opportunities to experience that and grow and be mentored or whatever. But the betrayal happens when, or if you express some frustration in something and I break that confidence to go to other people, or I break the confidence and say, you tell me two things that you're really struggling with because you do it out of vulnerability to get better. And then I leverage that on a performance review to downgrade
Mm.
you in a, comp structure or
Hmm.
some other model. I think when you've created a environment of trust, you're creating a team that is going to be highly productive. And I think the biggest betrayal you can do is to create that environment and then take
Hmm.
that trust and then put it somewhere else. So sharing people's frustrations in a way that they just said, hey, I need this confident,
Hmm.
or to take their vulnerabilities and use those against them. I think to me is the biggest betrayal you can do, because it's your job to take and build upon those and
Yeah.
help lift people up. And if you're not lifting people up and investing yourself in them, then it's on
Hmm.
you, right? I think um, there's a book I really like. It's called Extreme Ownership. I don't know if you've ever read it.
It
By
sounds very familiar. Yeah.
Chuck Wilnick and Leaf, was it Leaf
Oh
something?
yeah, 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 yeah. Jocko's great. Yeah,
Yeah,
Jocko's
and
amazing. Yeah.
it's great. But there's a thing in there that talks about one of their principles is something like there's no bad teams, there's only bad leaders.
Mm.
And I'm sure there's some bad teams. No, but there's no bad teams, there's
With the
only bad
concept,
leaders.
yeah.
Just easy. But I think that holds true, that it's incumbent on you to figure out where those
Mm.
vulnerabilities are and to build those up and lift people up. And I think if you don't
Mhm.
do that well, that would be my thought.
Awesome. Yeah, that's so valuable. I really like that. I think it's a. I don't know what I expected you to answer, but it's not it, and I'm very glad that's the way that you went with the answer. So that was really awesome. That was so insightful, and I think the vulnerability aspect of it is something that gets often overlooked for a lot of businesses, but especially like people that are reporting to leaders are like, I don't want to say these things because I'm scared that it'll be used against me. But as you said, if there is that transparency, if there is that support, if there is that confidentiality and the confidence that they will be there to support you and help you and push through anything that you need together, as opposed to, oh, this is gonna break my actual career.
Yeah.
I think that's so key. So that was so really valuable. Casey, we've gone over 20 minutes that I said we were doing. So thank you so much for your time. This has been such an incredible conversation. Where should people go if they want to learn a little bit more about you, or maybe a little bit more about the Greed?
Sure. I mean, obviously at degree.com, you can find me at LinkedIn. I'm Casey Adams. I'm at Degree there. I think it's YO Adams or something like that. YO Adams 90 maybe. Um, I don't know. I have 140 Instagram followers because I took pictures of random doors. Um,
Okay.
dial it in. Uh, Actually, it's funny. Sorry, you're laughing at me.
Go
I don't know
ahead. Go
why.
ahead. Go
I don't know why I'm telling you this.
ahead. Go ahead. Keep feeding me.
No. You could cut. You should turn this off and cut this out of your thing. I have a talking problem. No, it's funny. You ask where do you find people. Sometimes in life you got to challenge yourself to do things that you don't enjoy or you're not very good at. And I find
Yeah.
myself expression is not a place I could do this. So I was like, how do I do something of interest, not for anybody in the world, just
For
for
you.
my own personal
Yeah.
challenge? That was my own personal challenge. So anyway,
That's
no,
awesome.
I'm yeah. You can find me. Reach out on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to chat with people.
Amazing, Casey. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you.
All right, appreciate it, and we'll talk soon.
See ya.
Bye.